Certainly do appreciate you carving time to join us in the trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And you made a good decision, as you always do when you join us. And this decision is a really good one, because we have offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher talking about Kansas City Chiefs game and foreshadowing a little bit what might take place with the Washington Commanders. And Dan Pitcher and his coaching staff on the offensive side of the football, I thought, put together a very, very strong game plan against the Kansas City Chiefs. And players bought in. They totally believed in it. And for the most part, executed at a sound level. There's always going to be plays you wish you had back. And everybody that played that football game is going to have at least a play or two they wish they had back. But for the most part, the execution was at a much higher level week 2 than it was week 1. And I thought that the game plan that coaches put together gave the Cincinnati Bengals a puncher's chance, more than a puncher's chance to win that football game. It came down to one play. And pick it. I mean, there's at least a half a dozen scenarios you can go to. And we'll talk about that. Talk about the game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Talk about the upcoming game against the Washington Commanders. Cincinnati Bengals offense, I think, is ascending. I think Joe Burrow is, from week 1 to week 2, is ascending. We'll see what happens in week 3. We appreciate you taking the time to join us once again on In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And we are in the studio that is the studio of studios. It's as good as it gets, and we appreciate First Star for providing us this studio. And we certainly do appreciate our special guest. He is the offensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. And boy, I thought they put together, the coaching staff put together a hell of a game plan for the football game against the Kansas City Chiefs, and I thought the players responded and executed it pretty darn well. And we have a chance now to catch up with offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher. Appreciate you, Coach.
You got it, Lab. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I really did. I thought, on the pregame, I was kind of pontificating a little bit, and I'm thinking, okay, I'd love to see us go big some, and knock them around a little bit. We were physical with them in the past, and it's worked out. And boy, you guys did it again. What the decision to go with multiple tight ends, as much as you did, that tight end package you utilized in the football game, it rewards you at half, 9 catches for over 100 yards by the tight ends for the game, 14 catches for 151 yards. What was how did you germinate that game plan? I mean, what were you guys thinking?
Yeah, well, it starts with the guys in our building and, the confidence we have in that room. And I've said from the start, I think our philosophy is always going to be player centric. And so every week it's an evaluation process of where are we at with our players? Who do we have the most confidence in? And then how does that match up with their opponent that we're about to face? And so that's going to manifest itself differently, potentially every week. But we definitely see the value that those guys bring to us in that room. And I thought for the most part, they played very well on Sunday.
Yeah, I thought the versatility too, Erick all played some fullback for you. Drew Sample has done the same thing. I mean, within that area of your game plan with that position group, there was some versatility going on there that's pretty special.
Yeah, it helps. It helps when guys can do multiple things. And that makes it harder for the defense to zero in on exactly what they expect you to do when a given group of people is on the field. And so, that's something that we monitor and we try to do our best to present them different looks, with the same people. And then obviously you have to have the skill sets on your team that allow you to do that. And so, again, happy with where that room's at. And I think, we'll continue to grow that part of our offense.
How did that position group block? How did they grade out in that area? I thought for the most part they stood up pretty well. Did they?
Yeah, they had a good day. There's times, the different schemes ask different, varying levels of difficulty for that group. Sometimes, they're on the backside cutting off. Sometimes, you might be leading up from a fullback alignment. Sometimes you're one-on-one with the defensive end at the point of attack, and that's just how, there's someone's going to have a hard job on every play, regardless of what the run scheme is, and so. I thought overall they did a nice job, and again, happy with those guys.
And really, on the flip side of it, Coach Spags, I mean, it seemed like he went to a fairly simple, shell type coverage, and they're still going to double number one. Jamar's going to get doubled, but then, I mean, now you can kind of work with what you're seeing coverage wise with the other guys, and that has to be a helpful scenario.
Yeah, we go into every week expecting that. Jamar is going to oftentimes dictate the coverage that we see, especially in known passing situations.
Right.
They're on first and second down when it's not a known passing down. It can be harder for them to do that. But I felt like we had a good plan, and we executed a lot of what we set out to do. Obviously, we left some plays out there, and that's the disappointing part when it comes down to a 1-point game. And the way the game finished, how it did. So optimistic about being able to take some really positive things from that game moving forward. At the same time, understanding we got to might have only been one more play, but we got to make it to finish it.
How do you think Joe performed? I mean, obviously from week 1 to week 2, I thought there was a, definite ascension. What's your feeling on that?
Yeah, I thought Joe played well. I think if you ask Joe, there's probably a couple that he would want back.
Sure.
And I think that goes for all of us, coaches included. But that's the nature of it. And when there's a lot of that pretty much can be said for every week. And when you come out on top, it's easier for those things to just kind of slide under the bridge. And when the game falls the way it did, then any single small thing kind of sticks with you. But we're moving on. Like I said, we're going to take the positives. We're not going to dwell on the negatives. We're very optimistic about the future for this season, and so we're looking forward to moving on to Washington.
I hear that, Coach, and it is amazing, though, from a fan perspective, and like broadcasters watching the game, fans that are watching the football game. These two teams, man, they're instant classics. It's unbelievable. It match up so well against each other. And then the coaching staffs do such a brilliant job of putting together, game plans. And it's like, oh, well, man, we have our core of what we're going to do. But, man, there's always something that you got to be worried about, a wrinkle here, a wrinkle there. And that's what it's all about. And it's such great entertainment to watch these two teams perform because of every level that we just talked about.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a lot of ways it's taken on the characteristics of a division matchup.
Yep.
Because of how often we've played them over the last 3 seasons. And so, when you have those accumulated reps against a specific coordinator and specific players and specific scheme, that's why division matchups tend to be so close, because each other inside and out. And then it just comes down to execution and maybe finding, one or two wrinkles that make the difference. And so they're the team to beat. We felt like we did a lot of things that could have and should have beat them, and we didn't finish the job, and that's disappointing, but we're moving forward and we're excited for week 3.
So let's discuss what you're dealing with the Washington Commanders, and this is a football team that runs the ball very effectively, and teams have run the ball against the Bengals defense, giving up almost 160 yards a game in the first two contests defensively. How close is the running game on your side of it to where you want it to be? And when you're going against a team that runs the ball so effectively, does that impact what you think about offensively? How does that yin and yang work?
As far as our run game, I think there's been some positives through 2 weeks. I think there are things that need to be cleaned up. I think you can very easily say the same about the pass game with regard to the skill players and the protection. There's things that have been good, and there's things that we need to get better at. And so, that's what we'll continue to do, and we'll try to find ways to put our guys in great spots. And then with regard to just, how does their rushing attack affect our game planning? That's, we have no role in stopping their rushing attack. Obviously, the style of game is going to dictate a little bit, what you choose to do. That's why it's so important in games like this to start fast and to really take control of the game and be able to dictate how you want to play the game. And then, really then it comes down to how the head coach chooses to manage the game, with regard to how often, we run, pass, how we do it, how that relates to the score and the time and how their offense is playing. So those factors really don't necessarily go too much into the equation of what we game plan. We just have to make sure we have enough in all areas that depending on how the game plays out, we can pivot and we can play it as needed.
I know it's we're talking very early in the week. It's just 48 hours after the or even less than that, after the matchup that you just had in Kansas City, and you got an extra day in to prepare for the Washington Commanders. It's a Monday night football game, so I'm not sure, it's fair for me to ask you all kinds of questions about the Commanders' defensive football team. But knowing you, Coach, and knowing what you're all about and your work ethic and everything else, I know you've looked at them, and I know you have some thoughts and opinions on what they're all about. To me, as I remember them, and I haven't seen anything on them this year, but I do remember that they've got a pair of defensive tackles that are about as good as you're going to see. And as a former lineman, I'm like, hey, you got a definite challenge with this group. And I think their defensive front's pretty sound, as I remember. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, you're right. It starts with those two D tackles. They're both excellent players, impactful players, guys that you have to count for on all three downs, run and pass. And, so it's early in the year, and they're still gelling as a unit. Obviously, they have a new coaching staff.
Right.
They have a new defensive coordinator. Dan Quinn's a great coach, and he's had really good defenses everywhere he's gone. And so, the scheme's going to be sound, and the players are going to play hard. And they have two excellent D tackles that really lead the way, and they have good players throughout the rest of the defense as well. So. You mentioned it. We're in the early stages. Today's a big day. We have an extra day to game plan, which is nice. But we'll come up with a really good plan that puts our guys in good spots and tries to minimize the things that they do well.
And when you're game planning against any opponent, really, but you look at what that opponent presents and where the strengths are, position groups, and all that sort of thing. But then it's not all that. It's which weighs more heavily? What you feel you do best, or do I have to game plan and make sure that I account for what they do well, and then kind of go with what we do best? How do you piece all that together puzzle wise?
I think those are two pretty equal parts.
Okay.
I think it's our job, particularly my job as a coordinator, to try to minimize the impact of the opponent's best players, and then. You have to have an offensive system and enough volume in place that you can still be the aggressor, still be the attacker while accomplishing that goal. And so what you don't want to do is be on the defense, be defensive in your approach and just try to make sure, player X or player Y can't beat us. And so we're going to go into a shell. And we're just going to be super conservative and not be aggressive. Well, you have to have ways to guard against what player X or player Y can accomplish, but then still be the aggressor. And so that's about finding that happy medium, and having enough versatility within your scheme that allows you to do that. And so again, that's what you try to build in the offseason. That's the foundation you try to establish for an offense. And then that's why you have really good coaches who you have to listen to on a week-to-week basis, who are experts in their area, and try to put together a plan that does just that.
The thing I liked about your game plan last week against the Chiefs is you had this idea with this multiple tight end package, and it wasn't like, okay, we're going to play cat and mouse and be cute and unveil it at some point. No, man, you came right out right away and said, "All right, here it is. You know, we like this. We like how this matches up with what you're trying to do, Spags." And like you say, you be the aggressor. Here we're coming right at it with this, and you make the adjustment. I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I think there's everything's calculated. Sometimes you try to see multiple groupings early in a game to get a sense for what their initial response is going to be, and then that may help you make decisions down the line as to how you want to use that personnel group moving forward. So there's a lot of thought that goes into what those early plays are going to be, and there's a lot of things you're trying to accomplish. First and foremost, trying to move the ball down the field and score, but you're also trying to get a sense for what you're going to see from the defense that day and how you might be able to counteract that.
T. Higgins is obviously getting close. I mean, this is an obvious question, but when T. Higgins is able to participate at a very high rate, how much of a lift will that be to your offense?
I mean, T's a great player. T's been a reliable player. Having a guy like T really sets you up to punish the defense when they choose to dictate their coverage to Jamar. Because you're going to love your matchup no matter who's covering T. So whenever we get him back, we're going to love having him back, and we're looking forward to that day when it comes. So T's a big part of what we're trying to do here.
In your coaching experience at the tight end position group, is this the most diverse and versatile tight end room that you've ever experienced?
It's up there. It's growing. I hate to make that declaration 2 weeks into a season.
Right.
I think we have young players in that room. We have a blend, right? We have veteran players and we have young players. And, one of those young players in particular, Erick, we believe has a very bright future. And we believe not only does he have a bright future, but we believe he can help this team right now. But it's incumbent on Erick to keep taking the steps that he's taken so that trust will grow, his role can grow. And he's doing everything the right way. So we're excited about that, but I'm not going to declare it, the best tight end room of all time right now. I just know that it's a good tight end room for what we're trying to get done. They're well coached, they're hardworking, they're tough, and they provide us versatility. So we're happy with them, and we intend to continue to use them.
How about your running backs? How'd you feel their performance has gone at this stage of the season, and what are your expectations getting more out of that group, I guess?
Yeah, and I think Zach and Chase have both played well. We haven't run a lot of plays. We'd like to get in a game where we can run 70, 75 plays. And sometimes that's out of our hands. Sometimes, particularly week one, that was our fault. We had way too many 3 and outs, and you're never going to run enough plays. And then also get in a situation where, we're controlling the game from a score standpoint, and we can, potentially lean more heavily on the run game. Well, maybe not. Sometimes in those situations, they're going to sell out to stop the run, and then that's where you create more explosive passing plays too. So, we're happy with both of those guys. I was happy with them coming out of training camp. I'm still happy with them. I think, certainly both of them are eager to have opportunity to impact the offense, and we're eager to give that opportunity to them.
And to your point, the Commanders, after 2 weeks, averaging 176.5 yards rushing per game. So obviously their mindset's going to be, look, we got a young rookie quarterback. We're not going to put it all on his shoulders. We're going to try to run the football, take some pressure off of him, and as a result of being able to control tempo and line of scrimmage, keep number 9 in the sideline, and obviously that's a goal of theirs.
Yeah, that's something that's just the nature of football. If a team that looks at our offense and our quarterback and thinks highly of him and us and has respect for him and us, which I think most of our opponents do.
Yep.
They're going to try to keep the ball away from us, and so that makes every possession, critical. That means we have to be efficient. And that means there's, very little margin for error. You can't waste opportunity. And so, we're going to do everything in our power to be that efficient, explosive unit.
I'm sure the fans that are listening would like to hear your opinion and evaluation of Jalen Davis. I mean, you break down all the quarterbacks as they're coming out of college, and this kid, I mean, he runs like a receiver or a defensive back. I mean, he's kind of a long life kind of guy, and but he'll go get physical, and he's not the biggest frame guy in the world. But what was your take on him coming out of college? How did you think he would translate in the National Football League?
Yeah, I was very impressed. I mean, I can't say that I did a full-fledged evaluation of him as I would have, and Brad Cragthorpe did as the quarterback coach.
Right.
As the coordinator, I have to pick and choose what position groups warrant, my full attention and time. As you might imagine, the first round quarterbacks didn't exactly fall into that boat. But what I did see of him was very impressive. I saw, a guy really that processed and progressed and threw the ball well and looked like he was in total control of the offense. I thought they coached him very well there. And then he had the use of his legs and his athleticism when he needed it. But that wasn't the driving. In the few games that I saw, I didn't believe that was the sole factor in his success. I found him to be fast processing, effective player from the pocket as well. So I have to imagine that they're excited about him in Washington, and they think he has a bright future, and he's getting an opportunity to play early. And we all know that a young, exciting quarterback can breathe life into an organization. We felt that here.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be a challenge for us and our defense to make life hard on him. But I know our guys will come up with a great plan, and they'll do a good job.
And finally, Coach, and appreciate the time that you've given us immensely. You mentioned quarterback and fast processor. When I hear those two words, I think of Joe Burrow. And I thought, against Kansas City, that's what I was seeing. Joe Burrow, man, just like processing very, very quickly and making the right decisions. Is he from week 1 to week 2? I saw an immense jump there. Is that fair to say?
Joe had a good day. He saw the defense. Again, a couple plays that I'm sure he would tell you he wants back.
Yeah.
But I thought by and large, he saw the defense. He understood what they were trying to do to us. He got the ball out of his hand quickly when we did choose to drop back, on first and second down. He threw the ball accurately when we were able to push the ball down the field in the play action game. And so, I thought overall he played well, and not to beat a dead horse, but we needed to make one more play. And I think we all feel that way. And so it's over. It's we take that disappointment, the anger, whatever the heck it is for each individual, and you let it fuel you moving forward. And we got 15 weeks left. We got a marathon of a season ahead. We believe in the people in this building. And there's no reason why we can't accomplish everything we set out to accomplish. So it starts this week with a great week of practice, and then we go from there.
Well, Coach, I know you guys believe in everybody in the building, and I know everybody in the building believes in you, as do I, and as do all of Bengal Nation, sir. Appreciate your time. Thanks for giving it to us.
All right, man. Thanks, Lap.
Appreciate you.
Yep.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.